I had to bust out the older model of video style because we got an old friend that we need to educate on his own texts. It's Syed Taqvi.
So this guy made a video earlier, I think it was in Shahr Ramadan, where I exposed one of his videos saying that Taraweeh is bid'ah in congregation, and then he replied back to me by showing me Shia sources where apparently Taraweeh was not bid'ah in congregation, and then I refuted him so badly and exposed him so badly and showed that he was lying to such an extent that he didn't even read the footnote of the hadith that he was bringing, and the hadith footnote actually contradicted his claim. But anyway, he got destroyed so bad, he just went into hibernation for like 2 months, right? And now 2 months later, he decided to come back, and he's decided to respond to another one of my videos. So not that one, another one, where I'm speaking about the age of Aisha when she married the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So let's expose him again.
And then educate him on what his own sources say about the age of marriage of Aisha radiallahu anha, and also Lady Fatima radiallahu anha. Looking at the evidence from the Sunni side, he primarily uses Ibn Kathir, Al-Dhahbi, and An-Nawawi to kind of hit his home point all the way through. But the important thing to remember while you're watching his nonsense is that none of those people disagreed with the age that's reported in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. None of them. Even though they had the access to the supposed authentic works that you're referring to, none of them disputed the actual claim. So let's get that out of the way first. So let's take a further look and see if the sources that he's pulling from actually make the claims that support his final conclusion. Firstly, Al-Dhahbi in Siyar A'lam an-Nubala actually makes the report that Asma bint Abi Bakr radiallahu anha was more than 10 years older than Aisha radiallahu anha.
I use several narrations from Sunni sources showing that Asma, the older sister of Aisha, was born 27 years before the Hijrah, the migration of the Prophet, and she was 10 years older than Aisha. He's shown one narration that suggests that Asma was more than 10 years older than Aisha. One narration, okay. That's not how historical reports work. I showed a multitude of narrations saying that it was 10 years, and I'll show you some more now. You show one that she was maybe more than 10. Doesn't make sense. And also, how does it work? If you have more narration saying one thing, then that claim is stronger than the one that only has like one odd narration that I don't even know how you found. I haven't even checked. It's probably not even there, to be honest. Anyway, let's start off. Aisha took part in the Battle of Badr, which was 2 years after the Hijrah, and she took part in the Battle of Uhud, which was also 3 years after the Hijrah of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I showed that the Prophet did not allow people under the age of 15 to participate in battles, such as Ibn Umar, who was 14, and he was denied participation. So if Aisha was 9, she wouldn't have been allowed to participate in Uhud, showing you that she was a minimum of 15. I say she was 17 at the migration, minimum of 15. Next, Aisha reports narrations and events that took place in the Meccan period, and these happened before the migration. So if she was born, let's say 613 to 614 CE, as per the 9-year-old claim, then she would have been what, like 3 or 4? Yet she's way too young to recall these detailed events from the Meccan period. She's commenting on verses that were revealed in Mecca and how they were revealed and what the Muslims were like, etc. So I showed numerous Sunni narrations that Asma was 10 years older than Aisha. Asma died when? 73 years after the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ at the age of 100. Basic maths, bro. 100 minus 73 is 27. So that proves that she was born 27 years before the Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. So making that what? Aisha being born around what? 10 years? 27 minus 10? I know your maths may not be the best. 27 minus 10 is what? 17. And making Aisha 18, roughly 18 to 19 at the time of the migration of the Prophet. And then she married him a year or two later, so she would have been around 20 to 21 minimum when her marriage was consummated with the Prophet. I also proved that the narrations in Bukhari and Muslim contain Hashim and his father, and I proved that these two were unreliable, so you can't even rely on that. Also, you used a few Shia narrations. Let me show you some. Sayyid Ja'far Murtaza Amali, in his book Sahih min Sirat al-Nabi, volume 3, page 285 and page 287, he argues that Aisha was not 9 but in her late teens, and he relies on a report from Ibn Ishaq, Sunni, that Aisha was the 19th Muslim before the bi'tha of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alim. Sayyid Mohammed al-Qazwini, another Shia, in his book titled, literally the title of the book is How Old Was Aisha When She Married the Prophet? He proves through historical reports and Sunni narrations that Aisha was 17 at the time of the Hijrah of the Prophet and 20 at the time of her marriage. Bayhaqi in Sunan Bayhaqi al-Kubra, volume 1, page 204, says it. Now I'm going to show you how many people say there was a 10-year gap between Asma and Aisha. Bayhaqi, Sunan Bayhaqi al-Kubra, volume 1, page 204, there was a 10-year gap. Dhahabi, Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, the one you quoted, this is also the same book, volume 2, page 289, 10-year gap. So either Dhahabi is contradicting himself or your narration is weak. Ibn Asakir in his Tarikh Madinat al-Damashq, volume 9, page 69, 10-year gap. Ibn Kathir Bidayah wa Nihaya, volume 3, page 345 and 346, 10-year gap. Mullah Ali Qari Mirat al-Mafatih Shar Misqat al-Masabi, volume 1, page 331, 10-year gap. Al-Amir Sana'i in his Subul al-Salam, volume 1, page 39, 10-year gap. So if there's a 10-year gap, Asma, 27 years old at the time of the hijrah of the Prophet, Aisha, 17. Married the Prophet a couple of years after that, 19 to 20 or 21 when the marriage was consummated. Also in Shia Ilm al-Kalam and Ilm al-Daraya, if a hadith contradicts the Quran or it contradicts another hadith that's more stronger and muqtabar, we reject the hadith. So any hadith that says Aisha was 9, 10 in our books, we reject it because of historical reports. But you guys are stuck, aren't you? Sahih Bukhari, right?
It's Syed Taqvi.